The offseason is certainly not over yet for the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns reach agreement today with veteran safety Rodney McLeod. And yes, there is a Jim Schwartz history that puts this signing probably higher with the Cleveland Browns than it should be. We get to all that. Your latest Locked On Browns.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound LGB on ELOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. Joining here, Mr. Pete Smith, of course, Sports Illustrated's Browns Digest. Pete and his crew over there, they killed it with the coverage this weekend. Post-draft coverage, killing it again here this week. So make sure, you are following at _Pete Smith _ and of course, Browns Digest on SI.com for all the content. Appreciate everybody who makes us your first listen every day. To the everydayers, you guys are the fabric that the show is built off of on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you got the notifications on. So when the content drops, you guys are there to digest it. We had to switch up the format here a little bit today with some Browns news. Segment 3, we're going to get to the realistic expectations from the defensive players drafted by Andrew Berry this past weekend. Segment 2, can we maybe get something here from some of the offensive guys drafted here in year one as rookies? But first and foremost today, to kick it off, the Cleveland Browns reach agreement with veteran safety Rodney McLeod. He had a relationship with Jim Schwartz, was with the Philadelphia Eagles, was part of the Super Bowl winning team there this past season. Indianapolis Colts, undrafted free agent back in the day at the University of Virginia. And as you guys know, as many times you've listened to Locked On Browns over the years, Pete Smith and I, whatever year it was, with Juan Thornhill now, we've always been somebody that seems to find a way to gravitate towards finding a University of Virginia defensive back to bring into the fold. According to Wikipedia, if you want to go ahead and check that out, he holds the largest broad jump in the history of football. So go ahead, check that out, get a laugh here. But Pete, the Browns never satisfied. Andrew Berry did a radio interview today, talking about he's still tinkering, still looking, and everybody I know is up in arms about that. It could be lip service, could be nothing. But with the addition of Rodney McLeod today, shows the Browns maybe are not completely done yet with the roster moves for this offseason.
Well, they better not be done, but this was really good. They needed a third.
Well, wait till we get to segment 2 or 3, Pete.
Rodney McLeod is a valuable third safety because he has played all 3 safety spots, and it gives you the ability to do things like move guys around. So just throwing it out as an example, you could theoretically have the Browns run 3 safeties on the field. Rodney McLeod stays back and runs too high with Juan Thornhill, and you can put Grant Delpit up in the box, just as an example. It just gives you more ways to attack a defense, and that's on top of the fact that the Browns now have what they have to feel good about with their corner room. They're basically 6 deep at this point. And so now it's 9 deep theoretically, and just the amount of ways you can switch things up, matchups, and everything else that allows a defense to keep opponents on their toes and everything else. You're going to have to deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Pat Freiermuth and the Ravens with Mark Andrews and some of these other guys. They have to have more answers for tight ends. And that's another adult, which has been a major focus.
Adult in the room.
Major focus for this defense has been just getting rid of children, and they've got one more to move on from, and getting, people who have the right mentality and want to be good.
The first thing for me, Pete, that I like about this move, and you certainly touched on that, is, the diversity, and being able to switch guys up. And look, Rodney McLeod, he's going to come in here and, certainly some time removed from playing from Jim Schwartz, and certainly playing under, what was essentially his defense, but the veteran leadership. And you need some of these guys. And if he comes into the room and he's not supposed to be the best safety in the room, well, that's okay, because you understand your role as you get to a certain point in your career. But we've always talked about, and you and I both had a fascination about Juan Thornhill and his game, and we think he's more than just that. This gives the Browns some significant insurance, God forbid. And look, guys are going to miss time. Nobody's foolish here. Nobody's dumb, and nobody's stupid enough to realize that doesn't happen. But allows you to be able to move guys in, move guys out, and certainly take advantage of guys that you think might be a matchup. So Thornhill certainly could play nickel if it needs to be. Look, not pushing people off the field. It's just a realistic expectation of the guys missing time. But you got a ton of reps. Obviously Denzel Ward now going into year 6, Greg Newsome year 3, Emerson year 2. You get to the safeties. This is year 4 for Delpit, maybe 3 if you want to go that route, of course. Thornhill, this is year 5. McLeod, it's well over a decade, obviously, now for Rodney McLeod in the NFL. It's a whole bunch of guys here who know what to do. And I think for me, hopefully, what I'm hoping of this is, A, that it does give you a little bit more injury insurance, but it also gives you better communication. It gives you better understanding of what's going on in the field. You never truly had somebody that felt like they were truly comfortable in a Joe Woods defense, but now you have a guy, who was part of a Super Bowl team, knows what it needs to take, knows what it needs to please a guy like Jim Schwartz, and hopefully that can get that sort of nonsense that was going on last year at times basically out of here forever.
Right. Look, the Browns, some of it was on coaching and I think Joe Woods did not do a good job coaching his coaches, which I think led to some of the communication issues they had. But certainly getting a veteran who understands what he's doing in McLeod is only going to benefit Juan Thornhill and Grant Delpit and just all those guys being able to make sure everybody's on the same page, everybody's lined up correctly, which was a problem at times last year. And yeah, it's depth. It's making sure that, somebody doesn't sneeze too hard and suddenly you're in trouble. But again, options. It's all about options. Give yourself as many options as you can. And if you get nuts, you can do things like you play, you get into super obvious passing downs and you make Grant Delpit a linebacker or something like that if you really want to play around with it. So the Browns have 1 million DBs, and so long as they can put teams in obvious passing situations, they're going to use them all, and hopefully it's going to result in not only stops, but turnovers.
And we're going to get to that a little bit more here as we get over to segment 3 here, because one of the key to putting teams in obvious passing situations is that you can handle your business on 1st and 10, and that will certainly be key for the Cleveland Browns here in 2023, something they were unable to do in 2022, but a lot invested into that room financially, a lot of resources invested to the defensive side of the ball here. We're going to get to some of that here, but we're going to switch it over here, go to segment 2 here. We're going to get a little bit more into it here as far as the offensive side of the ball and what are some of the realistic expectations for the guys drafted on the offensive side. For me, I'm still stunned that this draft went 4 players on offense, 3 players on defense. There ain't no analytic approach. Look, you like players, analytic approach to doing this. Like, you like players, you take them. That's the way it goes, and you hope it works out for the best. That's obviously what Andrew Berry and his staff put together this past week. And continuing here, your latest Locked On Browns, Jeff Lloyd, Sports Illustrated's Pete Smith, along for the ride. Make a fast break to FanDuel during the NBA playoffs, because right now, new customers can get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Look, with FanDuel, there are great promotions every day. You guys are going to sit down and watch these games. Same game parlay. You can find 3, 4, maybe long shot bets. You don't play if you're not a big bettor. Put what down, $5, $10. You got a chance to watch a game, get all the enjoyment of it. Maybe turn your same game parlay bet into maybe $100 return. Hey, there ain't no better way to do it. There's no better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sports book. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That is FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Jeff Lloyd, Pete Smith, continuing here into segment 2, chopping it up. Appreciate all the everydayers here to Locked On Browns. A lot more exciting things coming. Can't wait to share it all with you as it all comes to fruition. And we don't get these opportunities. We don't get this growth over here at Locked On without all of you. So make sure you subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube page. Make sure you have the notifications on so when the content drops, you guys are all here to consume it. Offensive side of the ball, of course, the Cleveland Browns added wide receiver Cedric Tillman. They drafted offensive tackle Juan Jones, quarterback DTR, Dorian Thompson Robinson. I keep bungling that poor kid's name, and I feel terrible about it because he certainly deserves better. Pete Smith has been heavy in that. We'll get to that. Yesterday's birthday boy, Luke Whippler, added to the fold here on the offensive line. Now, Pete, I guess the realistic expectation is, and it's tough because, and I think this is where fans and, look, your first draft choice was at 74. In a perfect world, when your first draft pick is at 74, you're hoping they don't play a ton, but Tillman brings something to this room. He's got a calling card right off the bat, Pete. And it's one thing to say, and it's always so cliche to say, oh, well, he played in the SEC, da 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 da. Well, yeah, he did play in the SEC, but he played against the creme de la creme, and there were signs that he looked. You always want to say if somebody's playing against Alabama, somebody's playing against Georgia, could he possibly play on the other side? And I think with a guy like Tillman, you certainly saw those abilities. But some thoughts here, because I would say, and we'll get to the other guys here. But you got to think that there could be a possibility that Tillman brings something here that the Browns could value. And, there's opportunities to get him on the field earlier than some may expect.
Yeah, look, he's an outside receiver that can win. And if nothing else, extend drives. I've yet to see somebody stop him running a comeback. He's got that size. He blocks.
You ain't getting around 6'3", 223. You're just not.
And, he beat up on guys that, people are celebrating his great draft picks. Keely Ringo had nothing on this man. And you go back to 2021 and all these other things, and he's great. He is pretty polished as a route runner. You understand what he's going to do. I think they're going to expand on his game, but he's certainly a player that I think can jump right in there and offer production. Obviously he played with Tennessee's offense because of the way they do it and the speed. He's on the right side, save for a handful of reps the entire game. He's always on the line. You know where he's at. They're not motioning him to get him free. He knows how to beat press. He knows how to do the things that you need out of that guy. And if, the Browns do things like they love using things like bunch concepts and stuff, you can put him in there and he's going to be able to do that. I think he can contribute on the inside, but if they run as many receivers as we all think they will, you're going to end up with some guys who get fatigued. You're going to need guys to come in and get reps. I think Tillman can jump right in there and give you something early. This is always the thing. You immediately think, oh, that means he's going to have 700 yards. No, I don't think that's going to happen. But I do think he's a guy who's going to, who people forget that DPJ's rookie year, he had 14 catches. It's just that 3 of them were super impact plays. I think Tillman can do some of that, even if he may offer a little bit more than, certainly he's more polished and ready to go than DPJ was as a rookie. So finding that middle ground, I think he can contribute and do some things that are going to make the Browns happy right away.
And there's one thing for me that kind of stands out with Cedric Tillman, and this seems to have been the calling card since 2020. If you're a wide receiver, no block, no rock. You want to go out there, you're going to get physical, and you're going to help Nick Chubb take a run from 10 yards to 30 yards, 40 yards, 50 yards, 60 yards, whatever it may be. You'll get an opportunity to get some reps. And of course, the other thing is, the size, versatility. And as far as, Donovan Peoples-Jones rookie year, that you could see, it wouldn't surprise you to see a Cedric Tillman 2 receptions, 80 yards for a touchdown 1 week if the opportunity and, the circumstances and the game plan all just lined up to get a bigger wide receiver on the field. I think the path for this year, and look, for DTR, whatever we think about him, ideally the greatest plan in the world for DTR is that he never takes a rep. Tough scenario to go through. But Juan Jones, and I will get to this. Look, the thing about whether his love for basketball. Now, this was a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Because if this is something, and it truly appears that it was at Ohio State, that he loved the game of basketball, this, that, and the other thing. If he then went into these meetings with teams and said that, it basically lied, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You said you like basketball, or now you lied about it. So there was no way this worked out well for DeJuan Jones. But as far as the rest of the three, Pete, whether it's Jones, whether it's DTR, whether it's Whippler, Jones, Whippler, these are experienced guys played in big-time games. So the situation would never be that big for them. Is this scenario there where they should contribute greatly in 2023? Probably not. DTR, I think it's more of a let's get you ready because you're going to be obviously the Josh Dobbs for the next 3 seasons.
DeJuan Jones, I don't care if he wants to play, but if he thinks he's an NBA player.
If he wanted to play the NBA, he probably should have lost the weight a long time ago.
Myles Garrett's first love, almost certainly basketball. Clearly, he wished, there's part of him that wishes he was in the NBA, just like LeBron
Myles
James.
Garrett, Pete, if Myles Garrett was 6'8", there's probably a pretty damn good chance he would have been in the NBA.
Well, I mean, he famously almost took a scholarship to play basketball at Oklahoma. LeBron James wishes he was a football player. I mean, who cares? It's up to DeJuan Jones if he wants to be a professional or not. But you can use him right now. He's going to be on field goal. If nothing else, he will be a hero if Cade York does not have a block kick this year, because DeJuan Jones is not going to give up a blocked kick. He's just too damn big. He can stick his arms out. He's going to stop somebody. And then you can use him as a jumbo tight end. Let's go. Let's put him out there. Let's put him.
We saw it last year with Hudson. Last year with Hudson.
Hudson at fullback. DeJuan Jones is the extra as that extra tight end. Yeah.
And I tell you, that was some of the best short yardage opportunities we ever saw out of Nick Chubb.
Yes. So, he's going to get his opportunity by that. Hopefully he's not playing any more than that because everybody stays healthy and plays well. But that's the thing. He's been dominant at the collegiate level. Nobody's asking him to be something else. He just needs to play to that. DTR. Yeah. I mean, look, he is in a great situation because Josh Dobbs is here. Josh Dobbs can be the eyes and ears, that sounding board guy for Deshaun Watson, while also sort of mentoring DTR and showing him just what it takes to be a professional at this level, given his intelligence and everything else. And DTR is he's scrappy grinder guy, super competitive. I think that's going to be great for him. And then he can slide into that number 2 spot, whether that happens this year or next. They don't really care. But he's a great fit for what they want to do. And then, you get to Luke Whippler and stuff. And again, you don't want to see him play. What you want is for him to clearly take the second job from Nick Harris, who's on the last year of his rookie deal. And if he does that, he's in good shape, needs to get stronger. And no, he cannot play guard. Has no business ever going there, center only. But he's a guy that should have a shot to be a starter down the road, and the type of player who left college early probably shouldn't have if you're just looking from that standpoint. And the Browns get him a year early. They get him a year in the system, develop him, all that good stuff. And, maybe he goes back to college another year and he's a day 2 pick. Either way, it's good for the Browns situation. He's young. He's got a lot to work with, but more depth, more talent for Bill Callahan and Scott Peters to work with. Pretty much the perfect situation for either of those guys.
And you got to think the opportunity, if there was an opening at guard, you would consider playing if Whippler ends up, in fact, winning the number 2 job at center. He goes to center, and most likely maybe you put Posick there. But there's plenty of time to work the rest of that out. But you were not going to take a kid who left school early like Whippler did and put more on his plate than he's ready for. It's just not the way you do business, and it's certainly not the way Bill Callahan is going to do business. We're going to continue here, rolling through here, your latest Locked On Browns. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, joined by Sports Illustrated's Pete Smith. Appreciate everybody being along for the ride. I'm going to switch it up here, get a little thought here on what the impact can be from the defensive players. Locked On Browns on YouTube, of course. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow. You have your notifications on here. To all the everydayers, you guys are just incredible. We cannot thank you enough here for the growth of the show. And again, some great things coming in the next couple of weeks. We're excited to share with you all, of course, on that front. Audio side, if that's where you get your Locked On Browns coverage, we are always available, always free on your favorite podcast app. So make sure you go ahead and checking that out. Pete, now we're going to flip it up here. Obviously the first two, second and fourth selection, the Cleveland Browns went to the defensive side of the ball. You bring in defensive tackle, obviously Siaki Ika out of Baylor. You bring in, of course, Isaiah McGuire, edge out of Missouri. They later then go on, and for me, like all my Modern Family fans out there, you bring in Cam Mitchell, Mitchell and Cam and Mitchell. You bring in a versatile defensive back. I think, when I watch Cam Mitchell, the more I watch him, I go back to 2021, MJ Stewart. I think he's just got that kind of build, that time of game where I think he can play both. And even you look at his build and you're like, oh, really? Is this one of these type of guys? But he is. But Pete, early on here, you want guys to contribute. You need guys to contribute, but you don't want to put too much on their plate. You want them, hopefully you carve out a role for them. You tell them, this is what we're expecting of you. This is what we need of you. And you hope they can walk it down that path. And, with these three guys, look, Mitchell is probably going to be a little tougher because there are a lot of guys in front of him. But Ika McGuire, if they can do what they have done to this point, in their college careers, they should be able to pan out for the Browns as role players here in year one.
Yeah, Ika, perfect world. He gets 15 to 20 snaps a game.
Bingo.
As that
first and 10 and see on 3rd and inches and on the goal line.
Yeah, and there may be a few choice situations where he and Tomlinson are on the field at the same time, but that's not sustainable whatsoever. Not only are you suggesting a rookie should be in there immediately to do that, but neither of those guys have a gas tank for that.
Was this your hint at another move? I'm just asking.
Yeah, I mean, clearly they need a starting 3 tech still, which is fine. They can
Ionitis.
Yeah, get the Greek kid. And then Isaiah McGuire, look, he's a base power end that looks like he contribute immediately as a base power end. He theoretically can slide inside and do some stuff there, push the pocket, hopefully. But the reps are there for him to take if he can sort of acclimate quickly. And given the competition he faced, like his new division rival, Broderick Jones, just like his former SEC rival, Broderick Jones, he was able to hang with him. That's, certainly helpful in projecting him forward. Between him and Alex Wright, if Alex Wright takes a big step forward, then you've got a very long, powerful group that can come in, help you shut down the run and potentially collapse the pocket around quarterbacks, keep them in the pocket to limit the damage they can do. And then look, Cameron Mitchell, it sounds like it's impossible for him to come and contribute, but the bottom line is he is a guy who has inside-outside versatility. Obviously spent most of his time at Northwestern on the outside, but has the physical attributes you want on the inside. He's very agile. He's cocky and he's physical. He will put dudes on the ground. I'm already in at that point. You got me at cocky and put dudes on the ground. So, he has an opportunity because he's aggressive and he's willing to come in there and do things. Now, the thing that I'm curious to see what Jim Schwartz does, given the amount of guys he has, is not only is he going to move guys around, but is he going to blitz some of these guys? Because Cameron Mitchell is a guy who stands out as someone who can come in and blitz.
What did we love about MJ Stewart in 2020 when they had no idea what to do with him? You know what, kid? Just go blitz and create havoc.
Sure. And, if you're going to run a heavy amount of man coverage or cover 1, cover 3, those type of things, you're not fooling your slot guy on what he has to do. Yes, it's a little different. You don't have the sideline out there, and there's more ways they can attack you, but ultimately you're playing man, get in there and do it. So that gives a guy like Mitchell the opportunity to come in and earn reps right away. Again, you have all these DBs. As long as they're good, you're going to use them. He's going to have the same opportunity as MJ Stewart did last year, where most of us were like, see you in a couple months, and then he's already out there immediately. So I think the Browns have fostered an environment, particularly in that area of the field, where if you can come in and contribute, you'll find your way on the field. I think that's good for a guy like Mitchell, and I think he has a good shot to do that. But if nothing else, Cameron Mitchell is going to be on every special team. That is what he did at Northwestern. He had like 300 and almost 400 snaps of special teams reps in his career. So yes, he's going to have every chance to contribute on defense, but he should be a guy who's on special teams constantly.
Now, Pete, this brings here, obviously now with the Brown safety, we know who the top three are. Then you get to the two undrafted free agents, Tillman, the other kid from Ohio State as well.
Undrafted free agents? I'd submit there might be a third. Well, listen,
Pete's Georgia Tech kid. Pete loves his.
I love Charlie Thomas.
Pete is applied for Rambling Wreck gear, is the rumor.
Yes, I love Charlie Thomas, and I don't know what position they want him to play. If they really think he's a linebacker,
what was the 40?
He's 216.
What was the 40?
He's 216 pounds. He could potentially be a strong.
What was his 40?
4.5. He's in the 4.5 range.
Well, I'd rather tell look, we got guys already got to lose weight in here. The old James Coburn line. Hey, eat a burger or two, kid. Let's get you about 223. We'll slap a linebacker on you, and you're still running 4.5.
Well, if he that may be a situation where, and they've done this in the past, where they've had guys just sort of grow into it. I mean, Montreal Meander was a safety for the first couple of years. And
Very true. Very true.
A linebacker. But Charlie Thomas, another guy, tons of special teams reps, but potentially could be a box safety or in the slot, playing that money backer role at Georgia Tech. He got to do a little bit of everything. He's got coverage reps plenty, and he made a ton of plays behind the line of scrimmage, and he's even got the DeAnthony Bell punch in the arsenal, trying to create turnovers. So he's a guy I think is sneaky, interesting as far as somebody could do it. In addition to Ronnie Hickman, who's presumably going to be the right now backup strong safety, and then Tanner McAllister, who's presumably going to be that backup free safety. Although the thing with Tanner McAllister that's sort of interesting is he's got that little bit of MJ Stewart in him where he's flirting with that line between corner and safety. And I'm curious if that's sort of what they have in mind. He's got a ton of slot experience.
Well, I mean, the only reason he really went to safety at Ohio State was it looked like the playing time at corner was blocked. So it was like a switch or transfer. And, a lot of times in those situations, the kid's going to leave, but he was like, all right, I'll go safety.
Yeah, I mean, look, that which is always the thing. It's like, with the whole Greg Newsome thing is like, at the end of the day, you want to be on the field. Tanner McAllister said, I want to be on the field.
And I want to be on the field here. I don't want to go play at Marshall.
Right.
So you have that. And I mean, the worst part here, though, is, obviously a guy like DeAnthony Bell who did everything he could last year and, stuck around. It was a great, great story. It seems like maybe the deck is stacked against him here, but this is things we've said in the past year. In years before, when you were the fifth or sixth safety and you got cut on Labor Day weekend, guess what? You could always get picked up and go play for the Cleveland Browns. Now the roles are a little bit different here, and you may have to move and go find a home elsewhere. I mean, look, we'd rather be on this side of the fence, but it does, make it difficult when you get good stories like a player like DeAnthony Bell, who sadly, may have to move on. Taviar Thomas was a player a few years ago, similar guy, busted his butt on special teams all year long. His rookie year, blown out, had to have a hernia surgery like 2 days after the season was over. But the expectation is your franchise is going to be good. These great stories, they somehow just aren't really a piece of the puzzle anymore. He is Pete Smith at _Pete Smith _ Browns Digest, SportsIllustrated.com. Pete and the crew over there, they do a phenomenal job. They were phenomenal all draft weekend. They're coming at it here all day, every day this week. Pete's doing a great comprehensive dig into each and every draft prospect the Browns have taken. Tillman, obviously, Dawan Jones. Pete has been knee-deep in DTR film over the last couple of days. I don't know many people who have watched 11 UCLA Bruins games recently. Pete has probably watched them in about the last 12 hours or so. Today. So there you go. There's an idea of what Pete's Thursday entailed. A lot of course, the champagne gold and the powder blue of the UCLA Bruins. So make sure you're checking everything out over there at Browns Digest. Of course, myself at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. The show Locked On Browns at Locked On Browns. Follow back account. The way it's working should be back next weekend. Next week. He's just got it's his story to tell. Everything's good. Just got a lot going on right now. As him and his wife are starting a new chapter in their life. So all the everydayers here. Again, the growth here, everything over the past week, last week and a half, last couple of months here, draft coverage. Could not thank you guys enough for everything. So thankful. You guys mean the world to us here. Of course, on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you have your notifications on. So when the content drops, you are there to digest it, absorb it. All you guys, you are the best. If you are still the audio podcast type, go to your favorite podcast platform. Locked On Browns is available. It's always free, day in, day out, every day, 5 days a week, 52 days a year. Been here since 2017. All of that being said, this has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.